I'm speaking, yet this Bluetooth device is recording me without my knowledge. And all of this is happening from my legitimate unmodified Bluetooth speaker purchased from a trusted tech store. This is made possible by a Bluetooth vulnerability named BlueSpy, discovered and published by the company Tarlogic. Did you know that countless devices out there are susceptible to this attack? Meaning you could be a victim right now at the exact same moment as you listen? Yeah, I know, it's crazy. We don't need to become paranoid here. In this video, I'll show you how is that possible and also how you can protect yourself against it. Let's jump right into it. Hello guys, it's Sinan from Industry 404. Hope that you're all doing fine. For those who don't know me, I'm a passionate ethical hardware hacker and I popularize the latest vulnerabilities for you. Today, we'll be talking about BlueSpy. BlueSpy is a vulnerability that has made possible the capability of eavesdropping any private conversations through legitimate Bluetooth speakers. This vulnerability was published shortly after the publication of the vulnerability named Hi, my name is Keyboard, and abuses of the same authentication method named JustWorks described in my previous video, in which I was showing how it was possible to inject legitimate keystrokes on any kind of devices. If you're curious about it, I'll put a link in the description below. But for now, let's get into the technical details of this Bluetooth vulnerability. If you've seen my previous video, you remember that there is two types of Bluetooth technology, Bluetooth Classic and Bluetooth Low Energy. Once again, this vulnerability targets specifically Bluetooth Classic, the older of the two, originally introduced by the Bluetooth Special Interest Group in 1999 with specification 1.0. As you may remember, the Bluetooth functionality is organized into multiple layers. These layers are divided between two main components, which are the controller and the host. The controller is a separate chip with a dedicated antenna exclusively for Bluetooth functionality. It manages radio signals and low-level tasks such as authentication and security. Meanwhile, the host runs on the device's CPU or MCU, handling higher-level functions and communications. It must directly communicate with the operating system to perform tasks like processing keystrokes for the HID profile or activating the microphone for audio capture via the hands-free profile, such in our case for speakers and headsets. Obviously, and as you may expect, to enable Bluetooth functionality, these two components need to communicate to each other, and this is done through an interface named HCI, standing for Host Controller Interface. As you may recall from the last video, or as you likely experience in your everyday life, to make two devices communicate with each other, it must go through the pairing process. If you remember, the pairing process is used to establish authentication between the two components, but also generate a private key for secure communication. However, we know that the JustWorks authentication method is vulnerable because it requires no user interaction or any user confirmation to establish authentication and connection. But you will ask me, and that will be a wise question, if it's vulnerable, why are we still using it? In fact, we are still using it to maintain backwards compatibility and also support those devices that don't have any input or output capability and where verifying a PIN code, for example, is impossible. So once an attacker is authenticated and paired by abusing of the JustWorks authentication method, it can directly activate the microphone via the hands-free profile and eavesdrop all the private conversation. Yeah, I know, it's super scary, but this is how it works. But there's other misconceptions to highlight that make this vulnerability even more sneaky. First, you must notice that the Bluetooth functionality present different states and phases. These states are managed by the link layer of the Bluetooth stack. Initially, all devices start in the standby state. The device is neither discoverable, pairable, or connectable. But for most of the Bluetooth speakers and headsets, the most frequent initial state is the inquiry scan mode. In this state, the device broadcast is present for other nearby Bluetooth devices, and it's also discoverable and pairable. So the smart thing to do would be to deactivate inquiry scan mode by default, and the manufacturers of headsets and speakers should incorporate a user-friendly interface or buttons to allow the user to explicitly enable or disable inquiry scan mode with connectable and pairable status as needed. Also, the other problem that we can highlight is the fact that multiple devices out there handle multiple connections at the same time when a legitimate device is connected. So when a legitimate device is connected, the device should deactivate discoverable mode and also don't accept any incoming connections. Another issue on these devices is the lack of audio feedback when the connection is established. Sometimes for some components, there is no way to know if a malicious connection is ongoing. So adding a sound or a tone could help the user to verify that one of its legitimate devices is connected. Also, while implementing this proof of concept in Rust, which is available on my GitHub of course, I'll put a link in the description if you are curious, I've discovered another interesting aspect that could further extend the proof of concept drafted by Tarlogic, is that we can even sometimes perform this exploit on non-discoverable devices by spoofing the Bluetooth address of a legitimate device and force the reinitiation of the pairing process. So target device shouldn't only rely on Bluetooth address verification and allow repairing when not in discoverable mode. These misconceptions by manufacturers create opportunities to exploit this vulnerability, and it illustrates the importance of taking into consideration security and privacy at the very beginning of the IoT conception, rather than treating it as afterthoughts or features to be added later, which is quite a mess. As a last word, if you're watching this video and you're wondering how you can protect yourself against this vulnerability, here are some key steps. First, you should check for project details. Always ensure that you're paying for what's advertised, meaning that if you want to buy a Bluetooth speaker and only a speaker, you should confirm it doesn't have a hidden microphone on it. As for my case, I bought this Bluetooth speaker and I've discovered it had a hidden microphone on it, despite no mention of it by the manufacturer, which was an unpleasant surprise. My second advice, if you want to own a Bluetooth speaker or headset, would be to opt for secure technology. And by secure technology, the safest one would be, of course, wired cables, but you're going to judge me and say that I'm a caveman. So you should opt for newer versions of the Bluetooth, like Bluetooth Low Energy, which may be newer and offer maybe more security. The next big step, if you own a Bluetooth speaker or headset, would be to verify if your device is vulnerable to this vulnerability, and review also all the misconceptions that I have mentioned previously. Finally, if you own a Bluetooth speaker or headset and you know that it's vulnerable to this attack, my advice would be to turn it off when not in use. Also, be careful when you hear audio notifications, because it might indicate a legitimate connection is ongoing. That's all for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, you can comment. It will be a pleasure to answer to it. You can also play with the proof of concept that I've drafted in Rust, which is available on my GitHub. I'll put a link in the description below if you're curious. And you can like, share and subscribe if you want to stay safe and secure. And see you on the next one, guys. Take care. Bye bye.